Good morning and thank you for joining us. Syrian peace talks scheduled to begin today in Geneva are already in disarray following a botched UN invitation to Iran, an explosion in Beirut, and new devastating evidence which appeared yesterday and purports to show Bashar al-Assad's government has tortured and killed thousands. Do the talks even stand a chance before they begin? And to try and answer that, we are joined by Middle East Bureau Chief for Russia Today, Paula Slier. Good morning to you. And by I-24 News senior Middle East correspondent Ali Waqid. Ali, good morning.
Good morning.
And before we try and break this down, let's take a look at the following story.
The Syrian civil war has caused the lives of more than 100,000 people, but not all of them died in battle. A report first published by The Guardian and CNN on Monday depicts the systematic torture and killing of about 11,000 individuals by the Assad regime. The report was put together by a team of internationally renowned war crimes prosecutors and forensic experts, and is largely based on the testimony of a Syrian government defector condemned Caesar, a photographer in the military police, along with almost 27,000 photographs he provided. These images, combined with 28,000 more smuggled out of the country, tell the gruesome story of torture and killing of detainees by the Syrian government. According to the report, the reason for the photography was, among others, to confirm that orders to execute individuals had been carried out. And the need to photograph those who were killed is a strong pointer to the fact that the killing were systematic, ordered, and directed from above. Photos examined in detail by the experts show horrific findings.
Unmistakable marks of ligature strangulation were evident on a number of bodies. The beatings to which the deceased had been subjected in life were evident on their bodies in death. These photographs also included those who appeared to have been starved to death, some with signs of torture prior to death. Indeed, there were marks of beatings and burns even upon those emaciated bodies. In some cases, the bodies had no eyes.
The report was published just days ahead of the Geneva II conference, which is designed to negotiate a way out of the Syrian crisis by creating a transitional government.
If in that time there is a public desire and a public opinion in favor of my candidacy, I will not hesitate for a second to run for election.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad made his position clear regarding his future political aspirations. But this recent report draws harsh conclusions and shows clear evidence of systematic torture that would support findings of crimes against humanity as well as war crimes against his regime. While important, the report refers only to actions by some sections in the Syrian government and does not take into consideration what's happening in the field, where the majority of deaths of both sides are reported. Those deaths are likely to remain uninvestigated, at least until the fighting is over.
We're first joined from Washington, D.C. by I-24 News correspondent there, Steve Cates. Steve, good morning to you.
Good morning, Al.
Now, a few months ago, it was President Obama that threatened an immediate strike in Syria's Assad regime, citing a red line crossed. That was after evidence of a horrific chemical attack on civilians. Yesterday, devastating report about thousands of executions surfaced, reporting to blame the Assad regime again for that killing. The White House is behind the push for these peace talks that are beginning today, but was there a reaction from them and the State Department to this specific report of killings that just came out?
Well, certainly strong condemnation and just repeated observations that this is not a surprise, as outrageous as it is, and that this is something that the world needs to step in and stop. And starting today, as you pointed out, the Geneva II talks start with 31 foreign ministers, and Iran, which is the big news, won't be included because they refused to acknowledge the Geneva I talk.
No, and as you said, it's the talks are beginning today, but they seem to be already buried by everybody who's reporting them, given all these obstacles that were on the way. And is the Obama administration or the State Department gesturing that they're going to revert back to threatening the Assad regime and step in, so to speak, quote unquote, physically if these talks fail?
I don't think so. Unfortunately, no. The U.S. government and certainly the United States citizens are not for more military intervention at this point. I think they would support the administration, a world action, as in the UN. And you raise a very interesting point, Yal. Where do we go from here? The big issue, as I see it, covering this, is Geneva II talks are about what? A transition of the government. And you already have Assad stating just recently that he was actually contemplating a re-election, quote unquote, for another 7-year term. How do you start? That's the big question for everyone.
No, and that's exactly that. When it comes to the United States, policy in the Middle East, what is at stake, finally? What is at stake for the Obama administration if these talks fail?
Well, I mean, it's a huge setback. Obviously, it was a huge setback to begin with when that red line, as we all knew and remember, was drawn in the sand and never followed up through lack of, you could argue, leadership, but also from a very disenchanted Congress that doesn't like the president. So American prestige has always been on the line with this incident. But I think at this point, it's really about the world. It's the world prestige. You look at the report that just came out, Yao, and it's shocking. Even knowing as bad as the Assad regime is, you look at the strangulation, the ligature marks, you look at the, these are very renowned people that did the investigation. And even Russia, that's the big joke, even Russia now is cringing at this report because some things you just can't deny. You can't have Assad saying these were suicides, if you will.
Yeah, very good points, and thank you for joining us, Steve Cates from Washington, D.C.
Always a pleasure.
This morning. Starting with that report, okay, Ali Waqid, I-24 News senior Middle East correspondent. Let's take a look at that report. When something like that comes out, horrific pictures, but it does raise the question. The timing of it raises the question: why now?
Why now? Because it is at the eve of the talks, but with all the pain of the pictures we saw, they will not have any effect over the negotiations. I think the Western media also showed the atrocities that were committed by the opposition between different opposition groups and between the rivals of the opposition. This is why there are no angels in the Syria equation, and I think the big obstacle that is in front of the talks today is that the international community had made it clear that there won't be any military intervention in Syria, and the fact that none of the warring parties did not succeed to tip the battle on the ground.
Right. And, speaking of that, again, the timing of it, but also when we're looking at these talks at the beginning today, policy, you've covered Syria extensively. Walid Muallim, the Syrian foreign minister, was quoted saying yesterday that the red line, and it's interesting that he used the word, the red line, that the Syrian regime is drawing is that the Assad regime is not going to even be an issue in the talks. What is the point of talks like these then?
I mean, that is the question everyone's asking. The big sticking point is, of course, what happens to Assad. And what we've heard from the opposition up until now is that they will demand that Assad steps down. In fact, that was a precondition before.
It's 2012,
and that's why,
right?
Exactly. Right. But you've had Assad, as the Washington correspondent pointed out, saying that he is reconsidering running for a third term in office come elections in June. And Assad has made it quite clear that there will be no kind of power sharing. So that's one sticking point. The second sticking point is the question of a time frame. Here you have the Syrian National Coalition saying that there needs to be a time frame for talks. You have Assad saying that there will not be any kind of time frame and they will not be held to any kind of deadlines, that all future negotiations need to happen in Syrian territory. So it begs the question, why are the two sides even coming to the talks? And I think the answer to that is that for the Syrian National Coalition, it's an opportunity to put their case and their people on the international stage. Presumably we'll see people there who, if there is to be some kind of transitional government, will make up that government in the future. I think for Assad, he said that the point of the talks is to get international support for what he calls the fight against terrorism, and he keeps calling these opposition fighters terrorists. And I think slowly we're seeing the international community starting to agree that you do have these splinter groups now happening in Syria, and many of them are much more extreme than, for example, the Free Syrian Army.
And exactly that, the argument of who the opposition fighters are is a statement that was made also in the last 24 hours by the Syrian information minister as he was talking about the upcoming talks in Geneva that begin today. Let's hear.
Terrorism is the priority. Political initiatives have no value if there is terrorism, like the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, or the Al-Nusra Front.
Ali Waqid, when the Syrian information minister comes out with this statement, What is a gesture to the opposition? And who is the opposition that's sitting at the table?
First, we must remember that the preconditions of both the regime and the opposition were not really followed. The opposition said without putting the power of Assad on the table, and the regime said no terrorist to be participating in the conference. Those two preconditions were not followed. We know that the officers of the Syrian Free Army will be part of an advisory committee that will follow and accompany the official delegation of the Syrian opposition, and Assad continuing to be in power, at least for the transition period, is not to be discussed. This is why I think one of the major reasons of the of these talks is to differentiate the Free Army, to differentiate the national coalition from the other jihadist groups in the international community. This argument of the Assad regime that we are fighting Al-Qaeda is being accepted by many players in the international community. We know that the offers that Saudi Arabia gave to Bashar Assad and to the U.S. and the fact that Turkey has reduced its support to the opposition is due to the major role that was played in the last month by the jihadist group on behalf of the secular and moderate opposition. And we are seeing until the last hour the interclashes between the different opposition group, the secular and moderate group, and the jihadist groups.
And very true in that respect, Paul. So you've covered Syria, you've been there, and with everything that Ali is saying, and the Syrian information minister, the use of terrorism when it comes to the opposition group. But being in Syria and you see the people fighting the Assad regime, splintered or not, whoever they may be, and there are issues. Are these people, because the fighters on the ground are also not even accepting the people who are going, the agenda of the people who are going to the Geneva meetings, are they going to accept Assad in power?
They're certainly not going to accept Assad in power, which is why we go back to the fundamental question of what really can these talks even achieve. I mean, most of the analysis is that they're going to perhaps create some kind of humanitarian corridors. Assad is calling for that. He says he wants humanitarian corridors and potentially ceasefires. But in terms of him actually stepping down from power, I don't think we're going to see that happening, and certainly not by any indications that he's giving. I want to make a comment earlier about the report that was just released. One of the things that you notice so clearly when you're inside Syria is that there is just such a misinformation. Now, you made reference earlier to the chemical attack that last year. When I was in Syria, I was meeting with people, and there were families from Latakia, which is an Alawite community, who recognized their children that were in the photographs of the victims that came out of the gas attack that happened in Damascus. So they're asking questions that, yes, the international community carried out an investigation and it was proven that there was a chemical attack, but they never conclusively proved that Assad was the one who carried it out. And I want to make the same point about this report. Right. Yes, it's true, or at least that's what we're being told, that it is a former military photographer who defected. But what we have heard, for example, from the Russian foreign minister is both sides are guilty of crimes. Let's not start pointing fingers until we know exactly what the facts are. Yes, there should be tribunals set up, but let the priority first be on bringing the fighting to an end. And that's where the question mark is. The report also was commissioned by Qatar. Now, yes, you have top judges looking at it, but there's a reason why Qatar commissioned the report in the first place. So the misinformation, the agendas at play need to put a huge question mark over any kind of new evidence that comes out. We don't yet know exactly who these victims were. While fingers point that they were the victims of Assad, we need to wait and see exactly how the Assad regime justifies it.
And the question remains, is that investigation even possible while a civil war is going on? And if indeed, which seems to be the case, the talks are going to result with the opening of, humanitarian roads that actually just enable the war to go on with getting victims out quickly, then, Ali Walker, question to you, are we witnessing the breakup of Syria? Because many analysts are saying that, Syria and the war that's going on, and with the opposition refusing to accept him in power, but he's going to stay in power, et cetera, that Syria is actually the first block of a shifting Middle East.
Well, I don't think so. First of all, because there are no clear Druze or Alawite or Sunnite or Shiite regions in Syria. There is a small Kurdish party. The Kurds who are not enthusiastic to separate now when they face alone almost the jihadist group. But I want to point to a very important factor that in the Geneva talks, in the calculations of the superpower, they need to take into consideration, and they will, I think, what is happening in Iraq. The same main jihadi group that is on the ground in Syria, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, is threatening the stability in Iraq and is the major player right now in the Syrian university. And you cannot separate Iraq from Syria and what is happening in Lebanon, and the fact that North Lebanon is becoming a stronghold of those jihadist groups. So we have Iraq, Lebanon, and Syria, and Syria is not the only factor on the table of the international community, even in the Geneva talks. Therefore, I think the reducing of the place and the role that these jihadist groups are playing and humanitarian corridors are the two main issues, and I think this will be the achievements of this conference.
And time will tell. We'll follow the Geneva talks as they start today. Thank you both for joining me. When we get back, Thailand declares a state of emergency for Bangkok. First, though, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. Good morning, and thank you for staying with us. I-24 News Morning Edition, where you should be, because other than, scuffles around the world, we also have Tony Grant every morning, who joins us to discuss the news you missed while scanning the headlines. And
scuffles of various magnitudes, such as one involving The Economist magazine. Yes, here's a little bit of a tribulation between The Economist magazine and the Anti-Defamation League. Basically, the ADL has blasted The Economist over what they call an anti-Semitic cartoon. There you go. Yeah. Saying that the image depicts President Obama as being hindered by an Israel lobby-controlled Congress in dealing with Iran, and saying that this basically reopens old anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish tropes and images and stereotypes. And Abe Foxman of the ADL, who we've had the pleasure of having in studio, has demanded that they issue a full-throated apology. I'm not sure yet if they have, but it's a lively debate, to say the least.
Yes, and I have to say, it always fascinates me, and I'm not taking sides, first of all, because, I am Jewish, so I'll say this, and we do have a sense of humor, but it's fascinating how cartoons always seem to ruffle feathers in the Middle East.
It started with Walt Disney, arguably.
You said that. Yes.
Moving on to Canada. There is a new video that has surfaced of Toronto's crack mayor, Rob Ford, allegedly in a new drunken stupor and speaking Jamaican in a Toronto restaurant. But on a serious note, I want to bring it back to Stephen Harper. I had to say that because that is breaking.
It was breaking. He was speaking Jamaican.
Yeah, a Jamaican patois.
Patois.
A patois.
I love that,
because Jamaican's not a distinct language.
Not really. Okay. But moving on,
Stephen Harper, the Canadian PM who was in Canada, very well received here. The National Post, a Canadian national newspaper, basically analyzing very dispassionately and with some commentary pieces, basically his performance at the Knesset. Headline here, his speech to the Knesset was passionate, sincere, and for the most part right. They say that, the fact that Harper said that the Canadians refused to criticize, it's not that they refused to criticize Israel, but they refused to single out Israel for criticism, is something that the National Post thinks was a good thing to say. Right. And then they parse it out in different ways. They talk about the hot-headed Knesset member TB that stormed out or something or heckled him, which seems that guy is prone to do, if I did my homework properly.
Well, issues to have, again, it's such a touchy subject, I think, the Middle East in general, and then when you take sides, as Harper clearly did, As Harper clearly, he very much clearly took sides. Yes, but that headline is fascinating because it does, stand by him. And the other hand, there's so many headlines that were actually criticizing him for taking sides. But it's as muddy and complicated as the region. Yeah.
Well, less muddy is prison in Florida, because we have this headline in the New York Times saying...
You're on a roll, Tony.
I have a cold. I'm overly cold medicated. You don't have to be...
It's working for you. It's working.
But would it work there?
You don't have to be Jewish to love a kosher prison meal. Oh my God, let's pause on that for a second.
Not only a prison meal, but a kosher one at that.
Right. Yeah.
I was waiting for Orna Hari for
Brave New World, huh?
To chime in, because exactly, come on.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of airlines and kosher meals, and I will not name them. But yeah, wow.
It's the same principle here that applies with airplanes, that people can, maybe you're not Jewish, but you claim to be whatever. You want that kosher meal because you think it's going to be of a higher quality. So prison inmates in Florida.
People actually think that?
Yeah, I've thought that in the past. It recently changed on Lufthansa. Oh, did I say that? Yes, I did.
Yes, you did.
But anyway, in Florida, it costs a lot to make these kosher meals, 4 times more than your average prison meal. Okay. So, but basically, the article is saying that even if you're a Gentile, if you have enough chutzpah to say you have Jewish beliefs, they've got to actually now start serving those inmates, and there's a lot of them in Florida. Kosher food.
Kosher food, I'm speechless. Yes.
It looks good in the picture.
No, it does look good, and currently I'm just thinking, cold medication for you every morning, because I should have opened the show.
As long as it's not scissorp.
Yes, scissorp, no.
Justin Bieber's cold beverage of choice. Okay, interesting.
The prison should tell them that it comes only with circumcision, and then see how you feel about it.
Okay, that's going to be the second segment.
Yes, that's going to come up.
We'll get back to that.
Before we delve into
that subject, let's delve into a bar scene in London.
Yes.
Ever heard of Shoreditch?
Yes.
It's a trendy part of London.
Yes. I used to live there. Not in that part of London, but I know it. Yeah.
Okay, Holland Park. Oh, well, Friday night, trendy restaurant called Tramshed. Tony Blair, former British Prime Minister, was having dinner with his friends and family, and a barman by the name of Twiggy Garcia.
Great name.
Twiggy comes up to him and says, "Sir, I'm going to make a citizen's arrest because of your unprovoked war against Iraq. Please come with me." Wow. So Tony Blair replied, "You should really be focused more on Syria." And then his security people came and kind of arrived, and the barman quit. But, it was an interesting tit-for-tat there in this trendy restaurant, as reported by The Independent.
No, first of all, it's fascinating to see, fascinating being the line of the morning, that Tony Blair, as opposed to, I would say, President Bush, still has to answer to the British people about the Iraq War, that he was,
in very direct ways.
In very direct ways. Clearly there was no dessert. But, wow.
So.
No, interesting. Yes.
Back to the world's dirtiest man. He was making headlines yesterday and today. Now this guy, he's in a southern Iranian province, Amu Haji. I think he's 80. He's seeking a life partner. And
let's be silent for a moment.
He's seeking a life partner because, he, according to the Tehran Times, and this was also in the Daily Nation in Kenya, he's living
This is the man who burns his hair instead of washing it.
He lives in a hole in the ground, and you know why?
Why?
He says it keeps him grounded. Now, no, this is serious stuff. I mean,
I'm going to have to do news after this.
Of course it is serious. What else could it be?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm thinking it's a new kind of facial, the soil, we're talking ancient biblical what's it called?
Mud mask.
A mud mask, exfoliation.
Exfoliation. I'm losing my makeup here.
People pay a fortune for it in the Dead Sea.
Bingo.
Exactly. Well, it's cheaper wherever that guy comes from. Moving on to more serious,
Finally,
yes.
please.
The Business Insider reports that a former top Vatican accountant now faces money laundering charges. A certain Monsignor Nunzio Scarano. And what he did is he tried to smuggle 20 million euros from Switzerland into some of his friends, shipbuilding friends' hands in Salerno, Italy, where he's now under house arrest. And it just goes to show that the Vatican, is still the Vatican.
Yes.
And they have their problems like every other organization.
Putting it mildly, and you said it, and you said the Vatican means with again. It's going to be interesting to see how Pope Francis actually handles that one, the response, and if all these promises made, all these statements that were quite promising.
Easy to make, hard to deliver on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But interesting, nonetheless. Tony Grant, My lord, love you when you have a cold, and you will be back with us on the next hour.
See you in a bit.
On to news. The Thai government has declared a state of emergency in the capital Bangkok and surrounding areas to cope with protests aimed at forcing the Prime Minister, Yingluck Shinawatra, out of power. The restrictions are due to last 60 days, presumably straight up to the scheduled early elections. Now, to hear more about it, we're very happy to be joined by Channel 1's Foreign Affairs editor, Orrin Hai. Orrin, good morning to you.
After Tony, we have to be serious.
It's hard,
for a
I know.
moment.
We have to be serious in this one. No, and we'll get serious as we watch the following report.
Of course.
Starting Wednesday, Bangkok will be under a state of emergency for 60 days. The decree is an attempt by the Thai government to contain the protest movement that is trying to force Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra to resign and has blockaded parts of the capital. The emergency rule gives security agencies the power to enforce curfews, censor media, detain suspects without charge, ban political gatherings of more than 5 people, and declare parts of the capital off limits.
We don't worry at all about it. We have been here for 2 months, and there has been no violence.
The protesters have not been violent. I don't know why they have imposed a state of emergency.
The state of emergency was announced after a cabinet meeting on Tuesday after a string of attacks were directed at anti-government demonstrators. The latest violence brought the death toll to 9 since November. The protesters accused the Prime Minister of ruling under the influence of her brother, the exiled former leader Thaksin Shinawatra. But incumbent Prime Minister Yingluck refuses to step down. In an attempt to deflate the political crisis, Yingluck, who has strong support in rural areas, has called for a snap February ballot. But the opposition doesn't want elections. They fear they would again lose to the Shinawatra family.
And we are also, first of all, let's start with Orrin Nahari, Senior Foreign Affairs Editor, Channel 1. State of emergency in Bangkok. These demonstrations have been going on for months. Why now?
Years.
Years, actually, too.
Yeah. Well, they try to topple the government. Now, one thing before we continue, there's a headline from today, a couple of hours ago, that the leader of the red shirts, those supporting the government, has been shot in an assassination attempt, and we don't know what this will bring about. Probably nothing good. So the fighting between the yellow shirts, those who are against the present government, and the red shirts have been going on for years. And behind everything is this man, Thaksin Shinawatra, the billionaire, the self-made billionaire, whom the rural area loves. And they say, those against him, says he's bribing them. He says, and we've seen it in politics in the United States, Britain, wherever, you tend to give more money to your supporters. And they say he's brought up the situation of the poor farmers in the northeast, Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai. I presume there are many people here who've been there, know the area. This is a third of the constituency. The problem from the opposition part, this current opposition, that they lost the last 4 elections. And if there are new elections, as there should be, and the 2nd of February, they'll lose again. They don't have the numbers, but they are the elites. They are the army, the top of brass of the army. There are the merchants, there are the middle class and above middle class. In Bangkok, some say even the palace supports them, but secretly. So they want to topple the government, but not to have snap elections. They want to reform the people. They want to educate the people. They want to know that the people will know that the corruption is bad, that they should support the right stuff, meaning the others, and then with a new constitution and new laws, somewhere in the future, there will be election. The government says, okay, we've been elected fair and square, and we'll go through the elections. And for the time being, Bangkok is, or some part of it, are frozen down, and everybody's waiting for the other shoe to drop.
The shoe to drop. Joined also on the phone from Bangkok, Thailand, by I-24 News correspondent there, David Nataf. David, first of all, as we're hearing an assassination attempt overnight, how is that boding for the state of emergency?
Yeah, now you have a state of emergency in Bangkok. It seems that all the policemen now are in the street, but they do not bother the people. The truth is that you cannot gather more than 5 people. You can be arrested more than 30 days without having a lawyer. But there is a kind of climate of interaction inside Bangkok. Means the people, they are not following the rules. They feel free. There's a kind of anarchy since yesterday night. But you can feel a strange atmosphere between the carnival and the revolution. Means that you can be in the street listen to music with a protester, and suddenly someone hits or shoot a grenade. This is the situation. It's a very, very strange situation. You do not feel like in a war, but you can feel the escalating violence in the city of Bangkok now. As you know, the state of emergency is ruled by the Minister of Interior, Mr. Chalern. Mr. Chalern is the most, the people fear Mr. Chalern because he's got a lot of power, and he's the guy who can really control the situation and rule the state of emergency in Thailand. No one will face him because he's someone who everyone fears him in Thailand.
Right. David Nataf, thank you for joining us from Bangkok. Clearly, Orna Hari, as you said, this is, what seems to be an elevated, phase of these demonstrations, but makes one wonder, because as we've been reporting over the course of the last several months, it does feel like a festival. I mean, it really, what is at stake here?
There's a lot at stake. There is the control of a big, important country in Southeast Asia, but it's done in a very Thai way. It's done with the smiles. It's done almost without anybody getting killed. Even in the huge demonstrations that were a couple of years ago, where the airport was being shut down, etc., there were a couple of hundreds dead, not more than that. If we look at the Arab Spring, so to speak, we've seen the numbers are much more than that. So it's still there, but a big question, will the farmers from northeast Thailand will march on Bangkok as they claim they'll do, and then confront those against them? We don't know yet. The position of the army, we don't know yet. The army is said to be on the side of those on the streets who want to topple the government, and the police is with them because they come from more rural areas, from the lower classes of the population of Thailand. We don't know where it's heading, and behind the smiles, it can erupt in any minute. Now, the opposition party, the main opposition party, those supporting the current people on the streets at the moment, say they will boycott the snap elections. They will not participate in them because it is a charade and they don't want to be in the charade. We don't know whether the Constitutional Court will allow the elections to go ahead, because how would you do elections on an emergency situation, etc., etc. So we are in the middle of the crisis, but it's a very Asian crisis, with the smiles, with the bows, with people in the next street do not know what's happening on the street next to them.
We should all be so lucky in the Middle East, I have to say.
Yes.
And then, Orna Hari, also such a pleasure to have you here. When we get back, British media reports that a gentle succession is underway as Prince Charles prepares to assume some of his mother's royal duties and maybe more of an activist role. We'll take a look when we get back. First, though, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. Welcome back. It's still Wednesday, January 22nd, 2014. This is still the morning edition on I-24 News, where you should be. And I'm still Yael Levi, saying hello and good morning to Tony Grant, who's here to change our lives.
Well, you know what's going to change our lives?
Okay.
Side boobs. Now, side boobs are the latest Instagram sensation, as displayed prominently by Rihanna. Now, she apparently has joined the side.
You gotta slow it down, because I'm having a hard time, absorbing all of this. I think I just spoke Hebrew. Okay, Rihanna joins the
side boob brigade as she strips topless on yacht in Brazil. Where incidentally they're fixing Christ's finger on that big statue.
No, that's breaking news. That's like you just caught that coming in. Can you?
It's all linked.
It's all linked, and right now we're going to stop for a second as you explain to me what the side boob is.
Okay. Well, as we know, 2013 closed on a very highly Beyonce note.
Yes,
it's all about Beyonce. Well, 2014 is kicking off. Rihanna is trying to, I think, grab the pop princess throne back, and she's doing it by exposing what the British tabloids are calling the side boob. And she, in the next photo, not pictured here, she, quote unquote, pushes out her booty slightly and holds onto the luxurious boat's safety railings, where the star's steamy sexiness is surrounded by stunning views of the Atlantic.
Which nobody's noticing because it's a side boob.
I love this. I love this chick. She inspires us all.
She does inspire us all. I think I'm slightly, I don't know if it's slightly too old or it's just not in my character to join the side boob brigade.
But we can all join the side boob brigade. I mean, you know, it's never too early.
Something when you join the side boob brigade.
You get more Instagram followers if you're Rihanna, that's for sure.
Okay, we're having too much fun.
Yeah, you know.
What else?
Saint-Tropez dreams in January.
Yes.
Gosh. And you know who's really tame by comparison?
Who is?
Lady Gaga.
Of course.
Now she, you know, has been given the green light to sell her new album in China and ending a 3-year-long ban due to alleged vulgarity.
They banned Lady Gaga in China?
Yeah.
It's like this chick was created for China.
I know. She's like a China doll.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But everything about her is, well, okay.
Yeah,
so
but now she's back on sale in China and they can indulge their acoustical
why was there a ban
appetites.
on her? Vulgarity?
They said that her oeuvre, her oeuvre was kind of vulgar.
Classy.
It's like, let me say in French, like, je suis enrhumé.
My God, I love it when you have a cold. Yes.
So that's interesting in China. Now, a very telling picture was published in the New York Post. Didn't get to this the other day.
Right.
So let's get to it now.
Please.
The New York Post, François Hollande, the president of France, his past, present, and future gals were snapped in this one picture, which has resurfaced. Who is the third woman, you may ask?
Yes.
Okay. On the far left, it's Ségolène Royal.
Ségolène, who is also a politician.
That was a former, also, and you know, once ran for president against Sarkozy.
Won, right?
Almost won, but she was kind of demolished in a debate that will go down the annals of French debating history.
I remember that. I don't speak French.
And they have 4 kids together. Actually, they were never married. And in this one picture, you've got.
He doesn't tend to marry
them. He's not the marrying type.
He's not the marrying type.
He likes to keep those options open. One could say.
Because, I mean, Valérie, she's the...
There she is in the front of the picture.
Front picture,
and there is actor Julie Gaye in the back, looking on a little bit Monica Lewinsky-esque, one might say.
Very true. It's fascinating to me. So
Interesting.
He doesn't marry them. He clearly, I'm going to have to say it, he cheats. And they're all in the same room.
Yeah, I think maybe it was some kind of a press conference or fashion show, I don't know, but...
he does look a bit stressed in this picture, I have to say.
there's a lot of energy in that photo.
There is like, oh my God, they're all here.
It's like a French comédie.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, phenomenal.
It begs the question, what city is better, London or Paris? And the question has been begged because of a tit-for-tat between the Boris Johnson, the mayor of London, and Paris's deputy mayor, Anne Hidalgo, because tourist figures came out saying that now London gets more visitors than Paris. Really? And so Boris Johnson said, well, London's the greatest city on earth. And Paris mayor said, you know what, London is just a suburb of Paris. Wow.
Yeah, that is, I think that's cause for World War III.
I mean, the French and the British just, can't let it go, you know?
I know, but it begs the question that I will happily investigate.
I think Paris is better.
Well, you lived in Paris, I lived in London.
But the food's better.
True.
Yeah.
We will definitely take the Parisian, the French food any day.
Yeah.
Sausage and beans, I don't know. Yeah.
Anthony Weiner is hunting
Speaking of sausage and beans, yes.
Yeah. The Weiner is on the hunt for cheaper apartments with the lovely Huma Abedin, who is still married to Weiner. We don't know why.
How? That was my next line. Why?
Let me say this. The place that they live in now is actually owned by Democratic Party donor Jack Rosen, a close pal of Bill Clinton. And maybe they get a discount on their $12,000 a month rent because of that Clinton connection. Yeah, $12,000 a month. Yeah. So they're looking at a place in Gramercy Park that's only $8,000 a month.
Oh,
and this was a guy that traded on fighting for the middle class.
And
other things. He traded other things too online. Yeah.
No,
but speaking of Twitter, on a Tel Aviv note, I want to say I, the other day, investigated a huge new commercial, cultural development that's going to be occurring, taking place in the center of Tel Aviv called the Sarona Complex.
Oh.
And you see that picture that an amateur photo taken by me. There's
very nice, Tony.
Thank you. They've got the Azrieli Tower, I think, in the background, business center. This is a complex that started as a German moshava, which is sort of an agricultural settlement.
Yes, as a German settlement.
In the 1871, I think, before
my ancestors.
Yeah, and these were actually not Jewish Germans. They were Templars who were on a messianic quest, and then it became a British. The British occupied this spot, and it became an Israeli army outpost. And it's going to be reinvented and repurposed as a sort of shopping center. There's going to be a little museum in different places, cafes in the heart of the city, and I think it's going to be one of the biggest sort of shopping projects to be in Tel Aviv for a long time.
I gotta
Very
tell
beautiful.
You. No, the picture is fabulous. you clearly have a second career in store for you. Shall you choose to pick that up? But yes, the German colony and looking nice. And ladies and gentlemen, Tony Grant. There, look at that picture.
If you head to Tel Aviv, there's one cafe open. It'll be 40% open, apparently by April, they hope, or something, maybe more. So it's a little house.
And you will be there to take pictures. Tony,
hopefully.
Fabulous stuff. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Now on to our next topic. The press offices of the Queen and the Prince of Wales are expected to merge in what is being described as the latest step in Prince Charles's preparations for the day he becomes king, which may be very soon. Now let's take a look at the following report about the changes on the way in the British former empire.
The British royal family had its share of excitement and press coverage in 2013. Queen Elizabeth took a moment to reflect on the family's standing this past Christmas.
Here at home, my own family is a little larger this Christmas. As so many of you will know, the arrival of a baby gives everyone the chance to contemplate the future with renewed happiness and hope.
Baby George is indeed the notable addition to the family, yet significant changes are also taking place at Buckingham Palace's back rooms. Prince Charles is now assuming more royal duties from his mother, Queen Elizabeth II. Their press offices have already been merged, and Prince Charles is set to take over official overseas visits.
All this I promise to do.
The Queen, who celebrated her Diamond Jubilee in 2012, is 87 years old. This succession is a long time coming, yet it will be surprising to see whether Prince Charles can ultimately position himself as a lovable and respectable public figure like his mother before the throne is passed again.
To further discuss this issue, we're joined in studio by I-24 News senior editor Ruthie Sinai. Ruthie, good morning to you.
Yeah.
And also from London, I-24 News correspondent there, Jonathan Sacerdoti. Jonathan, good morning.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, reactions to what seems to be a two-day, I think it first came up in the Mirror and then in the Independent yesterday, the, what was it, the gentle succession. What is the reaction in the UK, London specifically?
Well, the news was splashed quite large over the Sunday Times and the other press. Of course, people are already used to seeing Prince Charles taking on some extra responsibilities and seeing the other royals in the family taking on their part in what is a very wide-ranging and big schedule of events for all of the royal family. So I don't think it's particularly news that the other royals are getting involved and that an 87-year-old woman is allowing some of her younger family members to take part in some of the activities that she has been doing for what is already the second longest reign ever in the British monarchy's history.
As you said, but of course for us mere mortals, and I stress anything to do with, succession and the British royal family is huge news. And in that respect, it was always believed that, he will succeed as the heir apparent. But Prince Charles has had his ups and downs with the British public, hasn't he? And isn't there some sort of an unspoken expectation that it will be actually Prince William that takes over, not him?
In real terms, I don't think there's any unspoken expectation of that sort. I mean, constitutional law is as it is, right, and the monarchy passes down to Prince Charles next. I don't think there's any question that Prince Charles would abdicate or pass over that and so that his son could take over, and I'm not really sure that anyone here would expect that to happen. Whether or not a popular vote, so to speak, would choose Prince William instead, the fact is that we have a monarchy in this country and it's not done by a popular vote. So I think in real terms, that's more fantasy than anything else.
No, of course, but I'm thinking of this as a Hollywood movie. But in terms of the Queen's longest reign, there is an expectation that this is imminent, or what is the schedule of a gentle succession? Does this mean it's happening this year, or nobody can really tell?
Well, all of this kicked off, of course, over discussions of the Queen's schedule coming up. She's due to go to D-Day commemorations on the beaches of Normandy, and Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, has been announced as going with her, and he's going to take on some of her official duties during key moments of that visit. And, of course, there was then a French government source which said that they had been told that this was going to be the Queen's last official state visit.
Yeah, but
so that's what's really sparked this off.
No, Jonathan, and thank you for, giving us this information. Fascinating stuff. I'm not saying this lightly. Ruthie Sinai, senior I-24 news editor. This is the stuff we live for.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Isn't it?
It's lovely.
Isn't it?
Yes,
it's lovely.
yes.
Now, I lived in London, and to me it was always bizarre that the monarchy still exists.
Yeah.
But people love this.
Oh, yes.
Now,
yes.
in terms of it, we got to talk a little bit of relevance. In the report of the Independent, it said that Prince Charles, when he succeeds his mother, might take on a bit more of an active role.
Yeah.
What do we think that means?
Well, she has been very careful to stay out of any controversy. I mean, she's really, 62 years on the throne. She's never made a controversial statement. Right. And he hasn't been that, that neutral about things. He has a lot of interests, be it, architecture and homeopathy and urban blight. And, he's got views on a lot of things. He's even been involved with the Qataris who bought some barracks in Chelsea, and they were redoing them, and he wanted them to do it in a neoclassical style, and they wanted to do it some sort of modern glass and stone, glass. So, he's got views. The question is, how self-restrained he's going to be as a monarch. I think the jury is obviously still out on that. I think he obviously is, he's a very different person from his mother. She, I think, is holding on. You were asking about schedules. I think she's holding on because she wants to break Queen Victoria's record. Queen Victoria was on the throne for 63 years. Queen Elizabeth is on now for 62 years. So she's got a year to go to break the record. And then we will have King Charles III.
Yes. Now, do we think? I mean, the question I put to Jonathan Sacerdoti, and granted, because I know there are rules and regulations for this stuff, but Charles, at the end of the day, does not sell, and this family sells. Yes. They sell. Mm-hmm. Britain. He doesn't sell as much as Prince William. Do we think this is going to be a shorter term? I mean, that's something that we can theorize. Is it something that lays into?
Look, it's obviously going to be a shorter term because he's 65. By the time he ascends to the throne. True, but still, by the time he ascends to the throne, he'll be 66. I mean, of course, we all wish him well in a long life.
Completely.
Look, I think
till 100, no?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I think that the kids William and Harry are going to be more involved. They are already apparently, they've given up their chopper pilot duties, and they're taking on more charity events and more travel, and they're, they'll be in the limelight more so, I think, that perhaps than the Queen's children were. When she was younger, because she was younger and she was quite active. Yeah. Charles is definitely going to take on her distant travels. She's 87 and she's, she works and she's busy, but she's,
No, we've seen. I think she did not attend the Mandela funeral. Which,
That's correct.
Which makes sense
correct.
when it comes to the age and
sure, in terms of the
time.
Long travel. Yeah. So I think obviously it's a different generation. 62 years. I mean, she's really set in her ways, and of course there are going to be changes. They've, in the meantime, as the report said, they've merged their press offices, which is sort of...
it's kind of an indication. It's all very proper and very implied.
Yes. And also they're going to manage this public posture, of Charles's, very... It's the same woman, Sally Osman, who was, who will be in charge of his PR and her PR. So she will shape this, very carefully. This transition, yes. And there's a good reason it's being called gentle. I mean, and.
Wearing new hats.
I know.
Yeah.
We'll see
Camilla will.
Camilla will. Maybe we'll see Camilla in fuchsia pink.
Yeah.
No, but again, I can talk about this forever.
Yes.
God, yes, the rich, the mighty, the monarchs. Ruthie, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us. And when we get back, a completely new segment, This Week in History. Stay with us. It's going to be fun. Before anything else, let's go back to the morning headlines. Good morning, and thank you for staying with us. I-24 News Morning Edition. Important day today. We have been invaded by the British Empire. It's female subject, so to speak. And it's Shachar Peled Yasminke. You will be introduced later. Just sit here and hyperventilate in the corner. But Shachar, I-24 News, Culture Magazine and Culture Correspondent, I'm sorry, with the latest in my favorite topic, which is?
Yes, film adaptations of
film
books. You know that feeling when you go to the movie and you think, I should have read the book? You know, usually...
Every single time, or we go so we can say that we read the book.
Unfortunately, usually the books are better than the films, and well, this is the opportunity to fix it for 2014. Yes, so here's some of our recommendations. There's The Monuments Men, which much has been said of that.
Another World War II movie.
Exactly. Oh, this is the best time for World War II movies.
They always come out at this time of year.
Yeah, I don't know why though. It's not.
It's very bizarre. It's like February.
Anniversary, but well, there we have it. Directed, written and starring George Clooney in a very remarkable cast. Yes, he did. Okay. Well, it was supposed to be released in 2013, but it was pushed to February 2014.
Any idea why?
Well, yeah, it was some production problems, but they lost a possible and probable nomination for the Oscar, but they did leave us time to read the book. This is what I'm trying to do, yes, in the past few weeks. And I have 2 weeks left. We have props. 2 weeks left. February 7th, it will be released, so I'm trying
reminds me of high
really
school.
hard.
We had Cliff Notes. You know what Cliff Notes are?
Yes. Book reviews. But this book was written by Robert M. Edsel. I'm sorry. The full name of the book is The Monuments Men, Allied Heroes, Nazi Thieves, and the Greatest Treasure Hunt in History. Yes, it's actually one big historic essay telling.
And this is a true story.
It's a true story, a fascinating true story about a unit in World War II consisting of art curators and art historians who were sent into Europe to fight and to save valuable works of art from the Nazis. A fascinating story. Robert Edsel himself, he's actually a businessman from Dallas who found this story fascinating. He was obsessed by the methods and the planning of how
if you live in Dallas,
how artworks were saved by these men from the hands of the Nazis. He actually founded and is the president of the Monuments Men Foundation for the Preservation of Art. He's an expert. I'm not sure, actually. But he wrote the book in 2009 after much research. So I'm sure some of them are, and he talked to many of them. And 2009, Hollywood was...
No, it does.
Quickly attracted.
It sounds like, even when, it was happening in real time, they had a Hollywood
and it's
movie
amazing they know about it only now because this sounds like a story that we should have known.
Years?
Exactly.
My God.
Where was Spielberg?
What a miss.
If you're looking more into comedy, we'll move on to This Is Where I Leave You, a book by Jonathan Tropper. He's a younger American professor of English, actually, and his book themes stem from his personal life. So, growing up and being single and getting married and getting divorced and living in the suburbs. So many people relate to his themes. This time it's another 2009 published book. This Is Where I Leave You. It was a bestseller for the New York Times. This tells the story about Judd Foxman, who isn't a very lucky guy. His father just died and his wife was caught cheating on him with his boss, an affair which became public. So now he's stuck for 7 days. Very American and very Jewish, because he's stuck for 7 days in Shiva with the Foxman clan.
Consider Shiva.
7 days and 7 nights with a dysfunctioning clan. An hilarious book, and it's going to star Jason Bateman and Tina Fey. So enough said. It's going to be an hilarious movie.
Occasion.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Now, if you don't like comedy and you want to move on to thrillers, then we have Gone Girl. This is a book by Gillian Flynn. She used to be a television critic, and now she's moved to the other side. She's going to write the screenplay as well.
There's hope for us yet.
Yes, and this film will be directed by David Fincher, the much acclaimed movie director. Seven, Fight Club.
Can't go wrong with him.
Yes, Benjamin Button. Many films with Brad Pitt, coming to think of it.
Yes, it's kind of like Scorsese and DiCaprio.
Absolutely. This one will star Ben Affleck, telling the story of a woman who disappears in her...
Ben Affleck, wasn't he once in a movie called Gone Baby Gone?
Yes, you're right, actually. So he's going to, on movies with the word gone in them.
Because this is Gone Girl? This is Gone
Girl.
Gone
Yes,
Girl.
by
Okay.
Gillian Flynn.
Kidnapping?
Yes, a woman disappears. It's a thriller. A woman disappears on her wedding day anniversary. Most evidence is against her husband. Did he really kill her?
Right.
Question mark.
Is she really dead?
Yes.
Okay.
Fans on the book have mixed feelings about the ending of the book. We won't spoil it, but this is definitely movie material, so we'll be waiting to see this.
Definitely.
We're moving on to Serena. No, it's not a biopic about legendary tennis player Serena Williams, though that could be interesting.
You know, that's coming up at a certain point.
Yes. No, this is a periodic thriller about a couple named George and Serena Pemberton on their journey to create a timber empire, and on the way they kill whoever stands in their way. And when Serena...
A timber empire?
Yeah, timber empire, and they kill whoever stands in their way. So, yes, that's the story. But when Serena finds out that George has an illegitimate son, and she discovers she can't bear children, she decides to kill his son. So it's quite a horrific story, but the movie will star Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper,
of Silver
the lovely
Linings.
couple from Silver Lining and American Hustle. So this is their third collaboration, and you know, taking evidence from their chemistry in the past, previous films together. This will be a great collaboration.
Where, you know, they basically kill everybody.
Yes, probably, but you know, it will be great seeing them both on screen. They look lovely, and I don't know.
It's kind of a Bonnie and Clyde-ish thing.
Yes. I was thinking about Bonnie and Clyde, you know, killing everyone on their way. But they're a great couple.
And the timber empire bit is a bit bizarre to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can't
elaborate on that.
In the 20s, clearly?
And something like that.
Yeah.
Last but not least, Inherent Vice. This is another novel published in 2009, but this time it's by Thomas Pynchon.
All these books are 2009, what, New York Times bestseller list?
Something like that, but this specific book is by veteran author Thomas Pynchon. He's written many books. Gravity's Rainbow is his most famous, but this is actually his first film adaptation, the first book that will be adapted into the big screen. This tells the story, this is Los Angeles in the 1970s, tells the story of a detective, a drug-fueled detective named Larry Doc Sportello. He investigates the murder of his ex-girlfriend, or the disappearance, rather, of his ex-girlfriend. This will star Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon. And Again, yes. I'm not sure they were
together.
Yes, they
were. Johnny Cash. Come on.
Oh, you're right.
Johnny Cash
I can't remember the name as well.
It's this great trivial knowledge that I have that saves me in moments like this.
I can't remember the name of the film, though. Anyway, directing...
Walk the Line.
Something like that. Paul Thomas Anderson will be the director, so he collaborates again with Joaquin Phoenix. He directed The Master, and of course there will be Blood and Magnolia. He's a magnificent director. Yes. So this will be another collaboration. Actually, the lead actor was supposed to be Robert Downey Jr., but then Paul Thomas Anderson said, no, I want Joaquin. We've seen him now in Her, so he's doing a great job there, nominated for lead actor in the Oscars.
Collaboration. I love this. All the films I'm never going to get to watch because I don't leave the house.
Read the book. Read the book.
I know, and you will be back with you. Show me just exactly where you're at.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm there in the beginning. I have a long way to go, no doubt.
But stay with us as we move on, and we're joined by I-24 News journalist Yasmin Kay, who's here with a new segment that takes a look at This Week in History News. You know, that's information you can use in cocktail parties, trying to impress people.
Nuggets of information that make you sound smarter than you are.
Bingo.
Exactly.
And it's also always amazing to me, you know, This Week in History, it's, you know, how did people before us mess up? Right?
It's always good to know.
It's always good to know. Yeah. Okay, what happened this week in history?
Well, this week is actually a very interesting week. The first item I want to start with is Tehran freeing US hostages after 444 days in captivity.
I actually remember that. Yes. I'm just saying. No. Yeah. Yes, I know I'm old. But, so that was the release. Was this? Yes, good save. From the movie. From the movie.
Yeah. With Ben Affleck.
Yes.
There's a theme, a common theme running.
Argo. We're not going to finish that line. So, wow. And that was after 444 days.
Yes, exactly. So they finally, Iran finally agreed to release the hostages after the US said it would release some assets that were frozen in America. Now, Jimmy Carter pushed for the release throughout his administration, but it actually happened just a day after Reagan had been sworn in.
Had been sworn in.
Yes, so kind of final blow to Jimmy Carter.
No, it's fascinating that it's this week, because because I think one can also mark this occasion as where Iran and the U.S. and Iran, began their long hate relationship of the last 30 years? Back in the Iran crisis, that type of Iran crisis. Yeah. The hostage crisis. Also, another tidbit just to show you how old I am. This is also the crisis that spawned a television show called Nightline. Just saying. Seriously, it was created because of that. It was a daily report about the Tehran crisis called Nightline, and then it spawned a show that's on
That's a
to this
piece
day.
of trivia that is
I never knew that.
Great for cocktail parties. Okay, what else?
So the next thing I want to talk about is this is something that happened in 2002 when pictures were released of Camp X-Ray.
Wow.
Which is part of Guantanamo Bay.
Yes.
This actually comes at a time when retired US generals have actually called for the closure of Guantanamo Bay. The news broke of that yesterday. They're saying that Guantanamo does not serve America's interests. As long as it remains open, it will undermine America's security and status as a nation where human rights and the rule of law matter. This is obviously 12 years
later
after Camp X-Ray pictures were released.
And this was 2002.
2002.
I think this is even before after that. No, my God. The Guantanamo Bay, the long stay in an American, civil rights or freedom of anything and everything. And
so cheery morning.
Please,
something a little bit lighter.
I love it. We gotta have you here. You depress us to death.
I know.
And that's why you come back.
But now I'm going to uplift you with a cheery tale of divorce. Marilyn Monroe divorced Arthur Miller also this week. Yes, this week in 1961, which just over a year before her death, actually, her sad death in 1962.
So she died a year after divorcing Miller.
She died just over a year after divorcing Miller. They were divorced. They were married for 5 years. They actually had a really interesting marriage. I mean, Marilyn Monroe converted to Judaism for her husband. She also defended him in Washington after he was found guilty of contempt of Congress. By the House Un-Americans Activities Committee. He didn't want to reveal the names of a group. Exactly. What I found quite amusing when I was doing some research about this is after they were married, Miller told journalists, well, Marilyn is only going to make one film every 18 months or so, which will take her about 8 weeks. And then he was asked, well, what's she going to do with the rest of her time?
Yes.
And he responded, she will be my wife. That's a full-time job.
I wonder why they divorced.
Yes.
So
and this is
that ended.
Yeah, she will be my wife.
A full-time job. To be fair, I think Arthur Miller seemed like a demanding sort of guy.
Very demanding
high
in many ways. If you judge from his plays, but I think that it's such a fascinating relationship to look at, which is also, I think it was portrayed in the film. The one with Michelle.
Yes, Michelle Williams.
Thank you.
My Weekend with
Marilyn. Yes.
Another film I haven't seen.
That's okay. You and I both. For that, we have Shahab in it. And
see it for you. No problem.
Exactly. Or read the book. And
so back to American presidents.
Oh, please.
Okay, so we're going to start off with Nixon.
Tricky Dick.
Yes. Who announced this week in 1973 the Vietnam peace deal. So this brought an end to America's longest war. He broadcast a historic speech from the Oval Office, saying that that this is finally the end.
See, in American history, Nixon is so marred as, again, Tricky Dick, Watergate, whatnot. We tend to forget that he actually is the one that eventually ended the Vietnam War in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, his presidency was, of course, overshadowed by
the
Watergate.
entire.
It's all. I mean, a lot of people, certainly in my generation, the first thing they would associate with Nixon wouldn't be foreign policy or any of the domestic stuff he did during his tenure. It would be Watergate.
And then on foreign policy, though, I mean, he opened the gates to China,
exactly.
China, the United States, and some say even led the way to the end of the Cold War. But still, tricky man. Yes.
So moving on to another American president, Bill Clinton. This is the week that he denied that he had sexual relations.
Really?
Oh, wait, that's not Clinton.
I remember that.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm seeing him on a different screen. Yes, so this was back in 1998. He
was too.
World famous quote, which is, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman. I never told anybody to lie. These allegations are false." Of course, it came out that
it's coming up.
The allegations were in fact very true. He was nearly, he refused to resign, and then he was acquitted of perjury, obstruction of justice, and he was managed to stay on as president.
This is a tight shot of him, but this is the famous. The famous speech, and it's also where it taught us. And if I can show this to the camera, that the American presidents, when they try to make a point, it's always this. It's I did not have sexual relations with it. There you go. With this woman, I did not tell him. And every time I see an American president going like this,
yeah,
you're like, oh, he's so
he's
lying. He's lying. Isn't
He
it?
did it.
Yeah, let's take a look once again and hear how he's saying it, because it's such a great moment in history.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Brilliant.
Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time.
I love the afterthought, Miss Lewinsky.
These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people.
And that brings to mind the story of the week. You know, it makes you think that President Hollande is never going to sit and say that. No.
I think he would say the opposite. I did.
Sexual relations with us, and ain't part of it. Okay.
That's another interesting...
That's it. That's all the time we have. How devastating. You are going to bring us... We have a one-liner. We'd have no time. Sorry. Yasmin K. You're going to join us next time. Next week, this is it for us. Folks, my God, I'm speaking. Visit us on the web or on our Facebook page, I24 News. Don't forget to join us tomorrow to start your day, as you should be doing every single day.